everyone. So today we're going to be creating a fun patterned landscape inspired by the artist Robin Mead. In her work, she likes to include lots of flowers, water, we have rolling hills, trees, the sun, even some houses. So we're going to be kind of working in her style, but adding in our fun own details. So we're going to start with a piece of plain white paper, and you want to make sure that your paper is going horizontally. That means that it is nice and wide. And the reason we want to do this is because this is for a landscape, and a landscape is all about that wide view of land. So that's why we're going to make sure our paper is nice and wide and horizontal. You're also going to need a pencil to start. A little bit later, we're going to need a Sharpie for outlining, and then we're also going to use either some crayons, markers, or even watercolors. So to start my landscape, I'm going to be starting in what we call the foreground, which is the front of our picture, okay? And things in the front of our picture are going to look larger, and then as we go back towards the background, we are going to be making them smaller because there's three parts to the picture: the foreground, the midground, which is the middle, and then the background. So a lot of times in her artwork, she likes to include flowers kind of popping up here in the foreground. And we're not going to see the whole flower. We're really only going to see parts of it because, again, it's kind of really enlarged because it's in the front. So I'm going to be starting by making some half circles across my paper. And I might do a whole circle here. Big half circle, and I'm going to start adding some petals. Now the petals can be any type of shape or design that you want. Do you want your petals of your flower to be long and spiky, kind of like a sunflower? Do you want it to be more rounded like a daisy? Do you want it to be kind of wavy like a rose? It's completely up to you how you design your flowers. So I'm just going to start adding some nice big petals here. So I still have some room, so I'm going to add some more flowers and kind of do some overlapping. So meaning that some flowers are going to look like they're in front, some are going to look like they're kind of hidden behind. Okay, so there are my flowers in the front. I can also add some patterns to the flowers to make them a little bit more interesting, especially for the middles of the flowers. You know, I could do some cool spirals. I could do just polka dots to really make that look like a sunflower. She really likes patterns in her work as well. So think of some fun, interesting patterns that you might be able to add into your flowers that you are designing. Okay, so now that I have my flowers done, the next layer that I'm going to put, kind of starting here in our midground, is I'm going to be doing some water. And she really likes waves, whether this is supposed to be ocean waves or if they're supposed to be like rivers. However you want to make yours is perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and create some swirls for the wave coming up. So I'm going to start kind of here at the edge of the paper. I'm going to bring it up and then kind of create a spiral. Then I'm going to take the outside here and I'm just going to make a curved line. So it kind of just looks like that big spiral coming up. And then I'm going to repeat this a couple times. Then to add a little bit more pattern to it, I'm going to create some more spirals inside to add a lot of lines to make it look like those rolling waves kind of coming over. And then kind of in between the waves, I'm going to draw some wavy lines and then add some more little wavy lines in the center to kind of make it look like the waves. All right, very cool. So once I've kind of got that done, my next thing would be creating some land. So if you want to have kind of flat land, want rolling hills, mountains, again, it's kind of artist choice, what you think is going to look best. I'm going to create some little rolling hills here by just creating some nice long lines. And I don't want this to go all the way across my paper. I want it to kind of stop midway, and then I'm going to continue with another line for another little hill. This just gives it a little bit more depth in here so that I have some multiple lines to where the land is going to be. And I'm gonna think I add one more right there. Okay, so now that I have my land, I'm kind of now, I've got my foreground, my midground, now I'm working into my background. So some of her pictures include structures, so houses or little buildings. Some she just has a whole bunch of trees, almost like it's the edge of the forest. She typically usually has a sun in the background. So you can kind of think about what you want to add into yours. For mine, I am going to go ahead and add some trees. I'm also going to add in just a couple houses and then my sun. Now for the sun, what I like in some of her pictures is sometimes she makes the sun down here at the bottom like it's either rising or it's setting. Sometimes it's up here at the top like it's midday, kind of shining down. So again, kind of your choice of what time of day do you think it should be for your picture. So I'm gonna go ahead and create some houses on this side. And they're gonna be kind of a little funky, little curvy lines to create the houses. Again, they don't have to look realistic. Some of this picture is very what we call stylized. So, you know, lots of bold lines, lots of kind of funky shapes. And that is kind of what I really like about her work. It's kind of whimsical looking and just kind of different and interesting. So for my houses, I'm gonna add some details. So of course my houses need some doors, some windows. I think I'm just gonna give this one a nice big window here at the top. And this is where you can add some other smaller details to make it really kind of look like some cute little houses. I'm gonna decorate the roof line. A little attic window. Okay, I've got my houses designed, so then I said, you know, I'm gonna add some little trees, maybe over here like it's a little forest. So I'm just gonna draw two long lines kind of coming up. And then she does kind of make these like stylized, what I like to call broccoli trees. So it's like the line and then the kind of fluff on the top. Again, because the picture is stylized, it is okay to use shapes like this. We're not trying to make them look realistic. And again, I'm using some overlapping so it makes it look like some of the trees are behind each other. And one thing I forgot to point out, my friends, remember, as I said, as you go further back in your picture, things get smaller. So look at the size of the houses in comparison with the flower. So this flower is almost the size of these three houses, and that's because again the flowers in the front, in the foreground, so it's going to look larger, whereas the houses I put in the background, so they're going to look a little bit smaller. So you'll notice that as you are working with your picture, that things that you put towards the background are definitely going to look smaller than what you have put in the foreground. So there are some trees over here. And then of course I'm gonna add my sun. So for me, I really like sunrise. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a nice, what I call sad face curve over here. That is going to be my sun rising over the hills here. And then I'm going to use these long lines to make the rays of the sun coming out. You'll see that a lot in her artwork, that she likes kind of the rays of the sun kind of shooting out here. And again, think of the overlapping. So I'm going to be putting this behind the tree. So I stop here and then kind of continue on this side. And then I'm actually going to double those lines up to just make them a little thicker. All right, so there is my picture. Now, if you think of any other areas that you think might need a little bit more texture or some maybe patterns that you could add to it, this is the time to do it. So like for my trees, maybe I want my trees to have some little dots on them. Maybe this is like a little apple tree going on over here. Just something a little different to kind of add some more pattern to our picture. You can add pattern along the hills as well. But that, again, is kind of artist preference. What do you think is going to look best? All right, so I'm pretty happy with my drawing. So now that you have your landscape drawn, and as I said, I want you to kind of add in your own details of what you think is going to look nice for them. Then we are gonna go ahead and outline. And this is one that I already did. And I always like to outline with a black either Sharpie, marker, crayon if that's what you have, because it's just gonna make those lines kind of stand out and pop. All right, my friends, so now the next step, as I said, is color. So for this one, I am going to be using watercolors. As I said, you can use whatever you have available to you at home, whether it is crayons, markers, colored pencils, if that's what you like to work with. Coloring is kind of totally up to you. Okay guys, so as I said, I'm gonna be using some watercolors to paint my picture here today. And I'm gonna be kind of using some what we call wet on wet techniques, where I'm gonna be using one color of wet paint and adding a little bit of extra water and then getting another color so that they kind of blend together. I really want parts of my pictures to kind of have this nice kind of blend or almost like ombre kind of look. So I'm gonna start up here with my sun. And I'm gonna start with a little bit of yellow. And then for the wet on wet, I'm just gonna take a little bit of the water that already has some yellow to it, and then I'm gonna get some orange. And when I put that wet orange down onto the already wet yellow, you can see that it nicely kind of blends together. And it'll kind of spread on its own to create kind of this really nice kind of blend. And I'm gonna do that kind of throughout my picture. Okay friends, so here you can see I'm doing a blending technique where I'm starting with some kind of watery orange, and I'm going to be creating kind of the sunset effect by taking some other colors. So I'm mixing a little bit of a pinkish color that I'm then going to blend into that orange. So as I go up, I'm going to kind of switch those colors. To do this, you really want to use a lot of water. You also want to kind of overlap the paint. So you're going to see I'm taking that purple and I'm kind of overlapping it a little bit into that kind of pinky area that I had. And then I'm going to move up to using a little bit of a light blue that, again, I'm going to blend with kind of that purpley pink color, which is going to blend to make some purple. So this is a really fun effect that you can do if you are wanting to create, as I said, kind of a sunset or sunrise in your background. All right guys, so once you are done coloring your landscapes, you are finished with your Robin Mead inspired landscape. These have been so much fun to draw the different patterns, all the pretty colors that can be used with this, and I just hope you had a really great time creating.